Chciałbym wygłosić wykład po polsku, ale niestety temat jest zbyt skomplikowany dla mojego prymitywnego polskiego. Dzisiaj mamy już jedno morderstwo. Morderstwo Abela przez Kaina. Nie potrzebujemy kolejnego morderstwa, mojego morderstwa języka polskiego. The story of Cain and Abel is part of general culture. It is known to everybody, even people who don't remember the last time they opened the Bible. We all know about Cain and Abel. And what do we know? Typically, three things: a horrible murder, an older brother killing his younger brother. Your Eminence, there's an interesting Christological point here, but we will leave that for dinner tonight. And then we know the famous statement by Cain, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Everybody knows that. And finally, we know the sign of Cain to accompany the wrongdoer for the rest of his or her life. Sometimes the Bible speaks most loudly when it is silent. And it's the silence in the story of Cain and Abel that introduces natural law. Because Cain does not say to the Lord, "You never told me that you're not allowed to murder. You told me you cannot eat from the forbidden fruit, but you didn't tell me you're not allowed to murder." It's the silence of Cain, the fact that he does not say that, which is the introduction of natural law. Because of his humanity, he doesn't need the Lord to tell him, "You're not allowed to murder." You're a human being with moral judgment, a moral agent by virtue of your humanity, without the need of revelation. You know that it is wrong to murder. That is natural law. That is the first time we encounter in the Bible natural law, and we interestingly encounter it through the silence of the text. The fact that Cain understands, he tries to hide it. Am I my brother's keeper? He knows he did something wrong, and he did something wrong by virtue of his humanity. Everybody is unique. Nobody is identical to somebody else. So on the one hand, Cain and Abel, Cain murders Abel. He violates the principle of equal worth of life. And on the other hand, he's not willing to accept the uniqueness of each individual, which is part of human dignity. That's lesson number one. Lesson number two, think the sign of Cain. It will accompany to the rest of your life. It doesn't. Because we also discover in the story of Cain and Abel the virtue of mercy. God does not kill Cain. And the virtue of redemption. Because what happens later in Cain's life? Does he walk ostracized by the whole of humanity for the rest of his life with the sign of Cain? If you think that, it's a long time since you read the chapter on Cain and Abel. Something very different happens. The Lord says to Cain, "How can you act in this way?" The Lord says you have to accept the accident of birth and do something with your life. And Cain listens. Cain builds the first city in humanity. We owe urbanism, some of us might not like it, to Cain.